Good morning.
Good morning.
And happy feast day to all of you. What do you think about when you think about a saint? Prayerful, silent, kind, noble, selfless, holy. All those adjectives we use to identify an individual's personality, an individual's being. These are saints. These are individuals who butter would not melt in their mouth, as they say. And yet we don't know what a real saint is like. There are many stories about saints. We read them in Butler's Lives of the Saints. And unfortunately, a lot of these stories that we have about saints have been glorified, have been fabricated, have been embellished with a lot of things that really may not have happened. And we do that with all of our heroes, and that's what saints are. That's who saints are. There are heroes in faith. These are individuals who have given us an example that we can follow. They are our heroes. We have heroes in the United States. We have George Washington. We have Abraham Lincoln. We have other individuals that we consider to be individuals that we can emulate to be a good, strong American. And because of that, we create around these individuals certain stories to show just how just or noble or honest they were. And so we have Abraham Lincoln walking through the night 3 or 4 miles, whatever it might be, to return a penny to a woman that he miscounted change to. We have an individual like George Washington, who said to his father, "Father, I cannot tell a lie. I chopped down the cherry tree." And on and on and on. Well, we find that with our saints too. We find that when we talk about our saints, our religious heroes, we fabricate just how holy they are. And depending upon the saint that we're talking about, depending upon who it is that we're trying to emulate, we see in this particular individual certain attributes that go to show just how holy they are. As I said last night, my cousin is a Filippini sister, a religious teacher Filippini. It's an Italian order. And she's been in that community for 70 years plus. And when I was in training early in my career as a religious, I had sent her some vocational information that she may wanted to give to the kids about our community that I was with, the Alexian Brothers. And then she sent me some information about the founding and the Sisters of St. Lucy Filippini. And in this story, it was interesting because of the fact that it said that on the day of her baptism, it snowed. And as her parents were carrying Lucy to the altar to be baptized, the snow miraculously disappeared from the walkway so that there would be no hindrance of her coming to baptism. But that was nothing compared to what happened at her communion. That the Lord desired so much to be with her that the host leapt from the priest's hand and landed on her tongue. Now, maybe the priest had Parkinson's or something, but that really, you have to stop and say, okay, now really did this happen? But what we're looking at is not so much what took place, but why. Why? Many times we in a community, whether that we look to our founder to give us that spirit of what it is that motivated, say, Francis to do what he did. And many times we may think, gee, it must have been beautiful to be able to be a member of the community with Francis. I don't think so. I don't think so, because founders of communities were tenacious about what they were doing. And they were not interested in altering their idea of what this community should be one iota. Francis did not give up 1 ounce of his mortification and his conversion because the other friars thought it too harsh. No one could match the bar that Francis set. And in other communities that I know of, the same thing took place. One of the saints that we know of is Mother Teresa of Calcutta. When she founded her missionary Sisters of Charity, she said to the sisters, you have 1 bowl of rice a day. That's what the poor eat, that's what you will eat. And advisors to her said, Mother, you can't expect your sisters to work as hard as they do on 1 bowl of rice. But Teresa was adamant at that because of the fact that she said that's what the poor are eating. That's all they get to eat, and that's all we should get to eat as well. Well, she was swayed from that and then gave her sisters a little bit more to eat. But she was adamant about that. We work with the poor, we will live like the poor. Another saint that comes to mind is St. Francis Xavier Gabrini. Mother Gabrini wanted to join a missionary order in her youth in Italy. But for whatever reason, there always seemed to be an obstacle that stood in her way. And so the local bishops called her in and said, well, why don't you start your own missionary order? Because there is a great need in America with all the Italian immigrants. And so she established the Missionaries of the Sacred Heart and came to America and opened up hospitals and schools all over the place. One day, one of the sisters said to her, Mother, we're working too hard. We have to rest. We can't go on like this. The sisters are exhausted. She said, no. When you die, then you rest. Right now, you work. Because of the fact that the mission upon which she was set was so tenacious in her mind that nothing was going to persuade her to change the course of action. We find in these communities that once the individual founder has passed over, that changes slowly came in to modify what was going on. We see this in Francis's own day when he gave up being the superior general, when he went to the Holy Land to visit the Saracen leader, that Father Elias began to implement changes that Francis was very upset about when he came home. But because of the fact that he had placed himself under obedience to Elias, he allowed that to take place. Do you want to live with a saint? No. It may be nice for a while, but unless you have that same exact vision to live that life, that dream, it's not going to be pleasant. Because you will be called to task on every turn to do better. The bars that these founders and foundresses placed is very high. And the job of their daughters and their sons is to attempt to reach that goal. We may not be able to become other Francises or Mother Gabrinis or Lucy Filippinis or St. Paul or whomever you want to call upon. But as long as we strive to become what they envisioned, we are fulfilling the mission. You people come here for particular reasons. We are a Franciscan parish. And hopefully you come here because of the fact that we have something to offer you that diocesan or other community do not have. And I truly do believe that all of you, hopefully because of our influence on you, are imbued with the spirit of Francis to go out and to preach the good news. And as we have said over and over again, almost ad nauseum, that your job and our job is to go forth from this church to preach the good news everywhere, using words only when is necessary. Only when is necessary. Which means that we have to live the gospel value. We have to show people by example what it means to be a Christian, and in our case, with a Franciscan flavor. Today we celebrate a feast of an individual we call Holy Father. Today we celebrate the memory of a man who set the church on its ear because he would not be satisfied with the status quo, and fulfilled the command that God gave him when he looked upon that cross at San Damiano, where he heard the voice of Jesus saying to him, "Francis, rebuild my church, for you see it is falling down." And it was only after his prayer and his meditation that he came to understand that it wasn't the physical church of San Damiano. It wasn't the physical church of St. Mary of the Angels. It wasn't any physical church, but rather the spirituality of the church, which he began to see needed reform. And he did this by example. He did not do this by war. He did not do this by fighting. He did not do this by enacting fear in the hearts of men and women, but rather by example. And many people who saw these brothers of Francis walking around said, "What must people think about these fools? But oh, if I could only be a fool like them."